Welcome back, everyone. Lex here, and really excited to have all of you with us again for another Excel Edge Realty Deep Dive.
Hey everyone, Vera here, and as always, so glad to be joining you, especially all of our awesome Filipino first-time home buyers and property investors out there.
Yeah, we always love connecting with you guys, and today we're diving deep into something I think you're really going to want to hear about.
Absolutely, we've been poring over this really interesting article from Asia Property Awards. It just came out on March 4th, 2025.
Yeah, so just last week, basically, hot off the press, and the title is "The Philippine Real Estate Market is Changing. Here's what you need to know."
Pretty catchy, right? And it's got a lot of insights that I think are going to be incredibly relevant to anyone looking to make a move in the Philippine property market.
Exactly. So whether you're thinking about finally taking the plunge and buying your first home, or maybe you're an experienced investor looking for your next opportunity.
This deep dive is for you. We're going to break down the key points from this article, try to cut through any jargon or complexity.
And really distill it down into those golden nuggets of information that can help you make smarter decisions in this ever-changing market.
Okay, so the article kicks off by talking about how the Philippine real estate sector is in this really interesting phase right now. They call it a complex transformation.
Interesting word choice, complex transformation. What do you think they mean by that?
Well, I think it speaks to how the market is being pulled in different directions by so many factors right now,
Yeah.
some positive, some negative.
Right, so it's not just like a straight line up or down. There's a lot more nuance to it.
Exactly. And while we're seeing some really promising signs of recovery in certain areas, the article kind of cautions us that the short to medium term outlook,
You mean like the next year or two?
yeah, exactly. The next year or two could be a little bit bumpy, a bit challenging, as they put it, due to a bunch of external factors.
Things that are maybe outside of our control here in the Philippines?
Right, like shifts in the global economy, political changes on the world stage, things like that.
Okay, so it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not all doom and gloom either. It sounds like we're in a bit of a transition.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And speaking of sunshine, the article actually highlights some sectors that are doing really well right now, specifically retail and tourism.
That's good to hear. I know those were hit pretty hard during the pandemic.
Oh, for sure. But according to this report they cite from Cushman and Wakefield Philippines, it seems like retail has bounced back in a big way.
What kind of signs are they seeing?
Well, they're pointing to higher occupancy rates in shopping malls, which suggests that people are feeling more confident about spending money again and they're heading back to physical stores.
That makes sense. Everyone was stuck at home shopping online for so long.
Right, exactly. And now there's this pent-up demand to get out there, experience things in person, try things on.
I know I definitely felt that way once things started opening up again.
For sure. And on the tourism front, things are looking up too. The article mentions that foreign visitor numbers are getting closer to pre-pandemic levels.
Wow, that's a huge step in the right direction.
It is. It shows that the Philippines is still a top destination for travelers and that the industry is working hard to regain its footing.
So it's got to be a big boost to the economy overall, right?
Oh, absolutely. But there's a bit of a caveat here. The article does mention this factor that's kind of putting a damper on the tourism recovery, and that's the ongoing tensions in the South China Sea.
Oh, right. I remember hearing about that. How is that impacting tourism?
Well, it seems to be affecting the number of Chinese tourists coming to the Philippines. They're referencing the Philippine Daily Tribune here and saying that this geopolitical situation is preventing the tourism sector from hitting its full potential.
So even though things are improving, there's still some external factors holding things back.
Exactly. It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Okay, so retail and tourism looking strong.
Yeah.
But are there any sectors that are facing some tougher challenges?
Yeah, actually, the article specifically points to the commercial and mid-market residential sectors as areas that are being tested right now.
Okay, being tested. What does that mean exactly?
Well, they're seeing things like higher vacancy rates in these segments, meaning there are more properties available than there are buyers or renters.
Ah, I see. So that's putting downward pressure on prices and returns for investors.
Yes, exactly. And the article suggests that this is due to a few different things. First, we're still feeling some of the after effects of the pandemic.
Like businesses closing down, people losing jobs, and maybe being more cautious about spending.
Exactly. And then you've got the rise of hybrid work arrangements, which has led to a lot of companies needing less office space.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. If people are working from home, even just a few days a week, companies don't need those huge offices anymore.
Right. And that's really hitting the commercial sector hard. On top of that, the article also mentions the government's decision to move away from the POGO industry.
POGO. Remind me what that stands for again.
Philippine offshore gaming operators, basically online gambling companies that were operating
Oh,
here.
right. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, so these POGO companies were occupying a lot of commercial space, and now that they're leaving, it's created a bit of a void in the market.
Interesting. So all of these factors combined are creating a bit of a perfect storm for the commercial sector.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
What about the mid-market residential segment?
Well, it seems to be facing similar challenges to the commercial sector, but the article also raises a red flag about the high-end residential market.
Oh, really? I would have thought high-end would be more resilient.
You'd think so, right? But Colliers Philippines is quoted in the article saying that the high-end segment might actually be heading towards an oversupply situation.
Oversupply, meaning they're building more luxury condos than people are willing to buy.
Yeah, basically. And that could have some implications for property values and appreciation in the future.
So for our listeners who are maybe eyeing those luxury properties,
Yeah.
it's a sign to be extra cautious and do your due diligence.
Exactly. Don't just jump in blindly. Do your research, understand the market conditions.
Now, beyond the specifics of each sector, the article also talks about some broader economic and political uncertainties that are affecting the real estate landscape right now.
Oh, yeah, this is important stuff. They specifically mention the upcoming midterm elections in May 2025 as creating this political noise that can make people hesitant to invest.
Makes sense. People want to see what happens after the election before making any big decisions,
Right. And then on the global stage, they talk about the return of the Trump administration.
which I think for a lot of people globally brings a sense of uncertainty about what's going to happen next.
Exactly. And that uncertainty can have a ripple effect on economies around the world, including the Philippines.
So even though we're seeing some bright spots in retail and tourism, we can't ignore these bigger forces at play.
Absolutely. They can really shape the overall market sentiment.
Okay, so some challenges and uncertainties, but the article also talks about some really promising opportunities emerging specifically in the industrial sector, and it seems like this is being driven by a big push for infrastructure development.
Oh, yeah, this is a really exciting area. They're calling the industrial sector a bright spot for investment, and it's all tied to the government's focus on upgrading infrastructure.
Infrastructure,
Hmm.
meaning things like roads, bridges, ports.
Exactly. And the article talks about how these upgrades are going to create a much more connected and efficient Philippines, which will be a huge benefit for businesses involved in logistics, manufacturing, supply chain operations.
Oh yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Better infrastructure means goods can move around more easily and efficiently.
Right. And that makes the Philippines a more attractive destination for businesses to set up shop. And that in turn creates demand for industrial real estate.
Wow, so it's like a domino effect starting with infrastructure.
Exactly. They do mention that while other sectors like data centers and supply chain solutions are also growing, they're not yet at a scale to really offset the challenges we're seeing in the commercial and residential markets.
So for now, at least, industrial is really leading the charge in terms of new opportunities.
It seems that way.
Now, shifting gears a bit, the article also addresses a really critical issue, and that's the ongoing backlog in low-cost and affordable housing.
Yeah, this is a huge challenge for the Philippines, and the article really emphasizes the urgent need for the government to step up and do more to address this.
What kind of solutions are they proposing?
Well, they talk about the need for stronger incentives to encourage private sector investment in developing affordable housing projects, making it more attractive for developers to get involved.
Right, and I think that's key because the government can't do it all alone.
Exactly. They need to partner with the private sector to really make a dent in this backlog.
And the article also mentions the need for more direct government funding through the National Housing Authority, right?
Yeah, they say more resources need to be allocated to actually building these affordable homes.
Makes sense. And what about PAG-EBIG? I know they play a big role in helping Filipinos access affordable housing.
Oh, absolutely. The article highlights how PAGIBIG continues to be a key player in this effort, and they emphasize how important it is for the government to support and strengthen PAGIBIG's ability to provide financing and assistance to low-income families.
So for our first-time homebuyer listeners out there, especially those who might be on a tighter budget, it's really worth looking into the programs that PAGIBIG offers.
Definitely, they can be a real game changer in making homeownership a reality.
Now, one thing that really struck me in the article was how, even with all these market shifts and challenges, Philippine developers are actually gaining international recognition.
Yeah, this was really cool. They highlight the 19th PropertyGuru Asia Property Awards Grand Final, which happened back in 2024.
So just last year, and Filipino developers took home some top honors, right?
They sure did. They were up against the best of the best from across Asia, and they really stood out.
Can you give us some examples of the awards they won?
Absolutely. So Abortiz Infracapital Economic Estates won the award for Best Industrial Developer, Asia.
Wow. And that ties in perfectly with the whole industrial sector boom we were just talking about.
Right. It shows that they're really at the forefront of this trend. And they also won an award for Best Green Industrial Development, Asia, for their Lima estate.
So they're not just building industrial spaces, they're doing it in a sustainable way.
Exactly. And then we had Sunshine Fort North Bonifacio Realty Development Corporation winning Best Retail Architectural Design, Asia, for their Mitsukoshi BGC project.
So that's showcasing the innovation and creativity in the retail space, which we know is another bright spot in the market.
Right. And then Robinson's Offices was recognized for Best Office Interior Design, Asia, for their GBF Center 1.
Interesting. So even with the challenges in the office sector, Filipino developers are still pushing the boundaries of design.
Absolutely. And last but not least, work. Sheetable Robinson Summit Center won Best Co-working Space, Asia.
So that speaks to the growing demand for flexible workspaces, even as traditional offices are struggling.
It's like Filipino developers are reading the tea leaves and adapting to the changing needs of the market.
Absolutely, and being recognized for it on a global stage.
Exactly. So it's a really exciting time to be part of the Philippine real estate scene.
Definitely. So looking ahead, what's the overall outlook that the article paints for the market?
Well, they're predicting that the recovery will be uneven, meaning some sectors will do better than others.
Okay, so no big surprises there.
Right. Retail and tourism are expected to continue on their upward trajectory, and the infrastructure investments should keep fueling growth in the industrial and logistics sectors.
Makes sense. And what about the residential and commercial markets?
Well, they're likely to face some continued headwinds with those higher vacancy rates and the potential oversupply in certain segments.
So those markets will need to adapt and innovate to stay competitive.
Absolutely. The article basically concludes by saying that the future success of the Philippine property market in 2025 and beyond hinges on how effectively the industry can respond to these evolving trends.
So flexibility, adaptability, those are the key words.
Definitely. So for all of our Filipino first-time home buyers and property investors out there, what are the key takeaways from this deep dive that you should be keeping in mind as you make your decisions?
Well, first off, I think it's clear that the market is dynamic and complex. There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Exactly. So do your research understand the specific conditions in the sector you're interested in?
Right. And I think it's also important to be aware of the broader economic and political factors that can influence the market.
Absolutely. Things like interest rates, inflation, election results, global events, those can all have an impact.
And don't forget about the opportunities that are emerging in sectors like industrial real estate, especially with the government's focus on infrastructure.
And for those looking at affordable housing options, keep an eye on the government's initiatives and the support available through PAGA-BIG.
Now, for anyone who's ready to take that next step in the Philippine real estate market, whether you're looking for your first home or your next investment property,
we at Excel Edge Realty are here to help guide you every step of the way.
we specialize in mid-price to high-ticket properties, and we're passionate about helping our clients achieve their real estate goals.
You can find us online at www.exceledge.com.ph or give us a call and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
As a final thought, I want to leave you with this. With all this talk about infrastructure development and the potential for new growth in different regions of the Philippines,
It might be worth considering how these changes could create opportunities for property ownership and investment in areas that were previously overlooked.
maybe places that are becoming more accessible or are poised for future growth.
It's definitely something to think about as you explore your options.
And as always, if you found this deep dive valuable, please hit that follow button so you don't miss any of our future episodes.
And share this with anyone else you think could benefit from this knowledge. The more informed we all are, the better decisions we can make.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time.